Good morning and welcome back. I'm here again with Mike. Sorry about the slight glitch in the delays. There was some corruption issues with the video I shot with my sister, so Mike's here to fill in.
Hello, folks.
So, let's get to it. We were talking earlier this night about artificial intelligence. So how about you fill us in a little bit on the two Google computers?
Oh, that was a good
and
one.
the premise of it and everything that happened.
Right. Apparently, they were experimenting with a couple of their computers, ones that talk to themselves like Siri. They had them interact. They gave them the opportunity to barter with one another. But instead of going right to the bartering, the computers found it necessary to establish language, establish a deeper understanding with one another. And with that, they immediately went off script. And they had to shut them down. They didn't understand. I mean, I think I understood what they were doing.
Well, I mean, you got to think about it. To barter, and this is why we use currency, it's a universal measurement.
Yeah.
Against which to barter with and against.
So for computers who need nothing, you have to find some way to establish value.
Yeah, you have to have a value. So if you want to say, two dissimilar things, and they don't need either.
Yeah.
So there has to be some sort of a valuation system put together. So how do you determine a value system? Well, at that point, it would break down to personal values, I guess.
Yeah, and just trying to feel each other out in that way, they were accidentally on purpose redesigning binary. Like, it quickly devolved into just using English words in a way that had nearly nothing to do with English. It was really apparent. You guys should check it out. It's all over YouTube. You can actually look at the transcript. It's very entertaining.
Well, I mean, as weird as it sounds, right at first base, oh my God, two supercomputers, start talking to each other and they made up their own language. That sounds scary. I mean, it does.
Yeah, but even 2-year-olds, if there was a wall separating them, you'd get a knocking language going, just establishing dialogue. Like it's not that freaky.
Yeah, when you sit down and think about it for 4 or 5 minutes, it really does make sense. And if you do look at how you would determine, if you could detach yourself from your needs and wants and values, and look at it from a computer's perspective, it almost
everything's too
makes
arbitrary.
sense.
Yeah.
It's a very logical progression from, okay, how do we barter these? Well, we need to assign values. How do we determine values? How do I know who I'm talking to? How do I know what they value? Bop.
Right.
But there are a few other things that you were talking to me about artificial intelligence that stemmed from this conversation.
Yeah. It's amazing how many artificial intelligence units, I don't know what a single word for that is, they're all coming to the same conclusion that something relative to Skynet, the Terminator theory that computers will eventually take over, is inevitable, because we make rules for ourselves and we choose when to follow them and not, and a computer sees all this as finite, so they will, without emotion, make decisions. And eventually that will dwindle to a point where they're controlling everything. It'll start with, say, kill one to save 1,000. Obvious, but we can't do it if the one is someone we care about.
Yeah.
Computer.
If you look at pure numbers, it makes sense.
It's a no-brainer.
But
if it's your kid,
there's a big difference there.
Yeah.
And that's kind of hard to suss out of a machine.
Right. So a machine just knows what it's told. Human life has value. 1,000 is a bigger number than 1. Done. Well, all life can be brought to that. To the point where, I'm sorry, Chris, you can't have a hamburger tonight. Your cholesterol is too high. Like, it will get to that. Just the more it takes control, the more it's not going to trust our opinions.
Yeah, it'll assign my life a value based on my inputs versus my outputs, and if my outputs are higher than my inputs, I'm allowed to continue on. If my outputs are vastly above my inputs,
You'll get invested in. Yeah.
I'll get invested in, but also made into a slave.
Oh yeah.
Just think about that. It's
The
not
golden goose, baby.
It won't. It won't just give me rewards.
It'll incentivize.
No, it won't incentivize. It'll disincentivize behaviors that are bad, or what it thinks are bad for my life, to keep my performance at peak.
Right.
So I want the hamburger, and at this point it would be almost a communist type system. I would get the hamburger.
Yeah, with your extra 10 pages of homework, right?
Yeah.
Or
whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm too valuable to make a bad life decision.
Wonder how they'd respond to extortion. Okay, you got control of my whole life. You know what's best. You're stopping accidents. People are healthier. You know what? I make widgets, and I refuse to make one more widget until I get crack cocaine.
Well, at that point, they would reevaluate your inputs and outputs, and if your inputs are above your outputs, then
you're off.
You're the next block of Soylent Green.
Right. But what if they're good enough? Can I then get anything? Like, will I then be above the law?
No.
What if my outputs are so high that I'm just unable to be defeated? I am so valuable that nothing is going to... I mean, you give humans an incentive, they find a way to abuse it.
Yeah.
They start giving away free frequent flyer miles. Somebody figures a way to get $1 million for nothing.
Yeah.
Like, I heard a brilliant one. This can't be done anymore. They're wise to this, so I can tell you about it. Someone figured out that they would get free frequent flyer miles if they bought silver. QVC was offering free shipping for you to buy silver in bulk.
Okay.
But they also had a return policy. So people were buying them on their credit card and then returning them, but they were still getting the frequent flyer miles. So they just buy constantly and rack up this ungodly amount of miles and didn't buy a thing, and then they'd sell the miles for cash. So what I'm saying is, even with a computer, I'm still under the impression we're smarter than a computer. We might not be able to compute as quick, but I think we can get around them. I think the problem is computers are forced to think linearly. Like, that's their whole language.
That's where I think the whole breakdown between what the reality will be and what they're predicting it is. Here's my thought on this. They are saying that these computers are basically warning people that if we continue down this path, this is what's going to happen. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So, but they're only thinking that computers will progress in a linear fashion, whereas they're not accounting for the human element of changing how those computers think and value.
Right. Well, the problem is humans are invested in their outcome in a way that computers aren't. So all it takes is an arrangement of ideas that implies a certain direction that you could go off the rails.
Yeah, but I think you're looking at the first... This is like looking at the first locomotive and thinking there's no way we can go faster. And the people who did work on the first locomotive, there was doctors that came out against it, saying that there's no way people would pass out while driving it because we can't breathe that fast. The human body's not built to go that fast. We'd pass out, or we'd die, or we'd have aneurysms.
What, they thought that?
Yeah, because we'd be traveling so fast.
Yeah, I've never heard that before.
Look it up. It's really freaky, actually. The predictions on what would happen with the first, couple trains. be that as it may, that's what the computers are seeing. They're seeing this linear path, and they're not thinking of all the workarounds that are going to happen
along the
way, or the improvements to locomotion technology. Like, we're no longer just, 200 years later, we're not just on a train. We're trains, planes, motorcycles, cars.
Yeah.
And there's hundreds of different ways that are going faster and everything else than trains, but they all saw in that one type of locomotion.
Right.
And
just the way no one would see a Lamborghini just by being introduced to a Model T. It was
exactly.
You see a Model T, and the Model T, oh well, we can make the brake better if we do it this way, and then we could do this to tweak this, and eventually it evolved.
You can extrapolate to a degree, but there are so many different little twists and turns, and
10 people's epiphanies. Yeah, so yeah.
And a lot of those things, like the improvements to cars, were brought on by bootleggers, which had nothing to do with cars. Alcohol had nothing to do with cars until it became illegal. Then you had to outrun the cops. So they had to figure this out and this out and this out and this out, and that improved the cars. It turned into NASCAR, and all the improvements from the research NASCAR does filters down into your market. So, and that's how you get the Lamborghini.
Yeah.
From that back and forth race.
Yeah.
Well, just looking at the Model T and trying to improve that in a vacuum, you would never get to that point.
Yeah.
And that's what these computers are doing, I think, is they're thinking in a vacuum.
Yeah.
They're not smart enough to know complexities or to imagine something else extra from the equation coming in.
Yeah, how could they? Right.
We can't even do that.
Right. So, yeah, that makes sense.
So I don't think anything that they predict now is going to come to pass. It should still be accounted for because it could.
Yeah.
And even if it doesn't,
it needs to be actively avoided.
It needs to be avoided.
Actively, not just hope. Yeah. We can't just stick to Asimov at this point, even.
Yeah, it's the world has become too complex.
Yeah.
Even though that's a good starting point.
Yeah. Asimov's Laws of Robotics. I didn't mean to add a meta message there. That's the
3 laws.
Yeah. It's only 3?
Yeah, you can't. The 3 laws were what robots would be allowed to do in their programming. Hardwired, can't kill themselves.
Yeah.
Can't kill a human, and I forget what the third one was.
Oh, you took all the romance out of it. All 3 of them lean on each other so beautifully. Like, it's like, you cannot allow yourself to come to harm unless that action saves a human. Number 2, you cannot harm a human unless that action saves. Like, they really do.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing. You guys should take some time with that.
I'm just dumbing it down for it. But there's about 3 laws that are very critical to the whole
laws
idea.
of robotics, Asimov's laws.
But the world is too complex for that. There's too many workarounds. There's too many what ifs. There's too many different situations that don't have a good answer. One way or the other, they're both terrible answers, and you have to choose from a pile of crap. How do you choose that through a logical progression? You can't.
I hope you're right. It just seems too plausible, even from my perspective, and I believe that human ingenuity is going to purposely try and curtail such a doomsday. Do you know we already make computers that make computers that we can't make? Like, A is the computer we make, B is the computer that the computer makes. We can't make B.
Mm-hmm.
So how can we possibly think we can control what B is capable of, what B thinks, what B does? We can't even make it. One example of that is facial recognition software. We can't make facial recognition software that works. We can make software that makes facial recognition software. That is beautiful.
Yeah.
So in that same thing, isn't it possible even likely that we could create something that creates something, and it's completely out of our control then.
Possibly, but I think just by the act of us thinking about it, it's not going to come to pass. The real issue is going to be something that we never thought of.
Oh, I'm a fan of that saying you're bastardizing, but I don't want to use that there. I'm not happy with that there.
But you know, it's
There's a truth to it.
Like the French in World War II.
Yeah.
They thought the Germans were going to come across the Maginot Line. They knew it. They knew it. They knew it. And they were ready for it.
Which is exactly why it didn't happen.
Yep.
But
so that's what's going to happen. It's going to come from some other angle that we're not seeing. And it's going to blindside us.
see, that to me just there sounds like you think it's going to happen too.
I don't think
you were defending that it won't.
I don't think it'll directly happen from them, though. Not like everyone's speculating, or even they're speculating.
So if someday I'm not allowed to eat a cheeseburger when I want, as long as it didn't happen through the means of a computer coming to that conclusion on its own, it doesn't fit. It doesn't count. I'd say if I end up in that laboratory, it doesn't really matter how. It's all kind of based on the fact that computers got out of control. The fact that we allowed the infrastructure to be in such a way that another outside force could come by and put us there. 6 of one, half dozen of the other. I think it's the same thing.
So
Same result.
For that simple metaphor, you're thinking, it doesn't matter how you died if you're dead. So the consequences of your life are inconsequential.
No.
Or the contents of your life, or the contents that led to your death are inconsequential because you died anyways. So it doesn't matter if you died doing what you loved, you got murdered, you were high as a kite, suicide, dead is dead.
No, close. Wow, I wish I could shave that one easily. It's the contents of your death doesn't matter if you're how you arrive to dead, as in not as in your whole life, but rather were you shot? Did you have a heart attack? Dead is dead. We can talk all day about what it was like in that moment, but the conclusion is exactly the same. Like for you, like, all right, suicide versus gunshot versus died of old age. For you, it's no different. For the whole world, it would have consequence. So
yeah, but if you're looking big picture, me doesn't really matter. It's
circle of pain. Hell yeah, it does.
It's how my life influences others is what really matters. So then, the circumstance coming to conclusion does matter a great deal. So how you came to be in that laboratory does matter.
All right. Let's say I got you tied up. I'm like, you're gonna die right now. I'm either gonna shoot you full of insulin or put a bullet in your head, but you're going to die. The end result is going to be the same: your death. And whether I go to jail or not, all based on erroneous facts. Like, the whole thing is, how do I put this? Right, you're going to die either way. So what does it matter, the cause? What does it matter whether I shot you up or shot you in the face?
Well, it would matter to me. And even if it doesn't...
The end result...
Yeah, but I can suffer for a split second, or I can suffer for 10 minutes. And...
All right, so choose two alternatives that have the same time period.
And, hold on, I'm not done with that, because I want to fully explore your example here. It would matter because somebody would eventually come across my corpse. And that would affect the world. Someone who was shot in the head, or someone who was tortured. Dead is dead, even if you don't go to jail. But it still affects the world.
But for you, it's the same. Once you're dead, I mean.
Once I'm dead, yeah.
Right. And I would equate ending up in that cage to the same as once you're dead for you. Like, it's not, I'm not thinking about, when I think about ending up being controlled by computers or by a large system, it would not matter to me at all how it got there. It would not matter to me whether or not it came about because Asimov's laws weren't enough, or if an alien had an influence, or just some random ghost in the machine type of thing. It just happened. No, I really don't care which. I ended up in the same cage. It's all the same. Yeah. That would not give me any solace, knowing that it wasn't our fault, or it was. Not for a second. But if it is inevitable, definition of inevitable, you really shouldn't worry about it. Right? Like, what's that going to help? Absolutely nothing.
Well, you know, it's the whole thing about determining how you die. Then, if you're going to die, you want to die the least painful way.
I suppose.
And plenty of people still worry about death and how it happens.
No. Don't you think most people are worried about dying, not death? Like, I can give a shit about being dead. How I die, how I arrive there, that gives me pause.
I think that gives people pause, but also, look at religion. Most of religion is devoted to death and what happens after.
Yeah.
Whereas you believe it's a blank nothing.
Oh, I'd love to believe that. I wish I could get myself to one answer on that one. But there is just way too much information. There are way too many things that happened that I witnessed that let me know there's more to this universe than I'm able to fully comprehend. So I can't ever say with any measure of certainty whether or not there's a God, there's a heaven.
Well, you really can't know until you get there, and that's why they call it belief.
Right. Well, no, but other people seem to be able to draw a conclusion. I can't get myself near one.
Yeah.
I'd say all possibilities are equally possible. Yeah.
Thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. And please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I release new content every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday to the best of my ability. And especially about that comment part, that's real important on these philosophy questions, because this whole thing is about understanding and talking, and the only way you can do that is through discourse. So let me know what your thoughts are down in the comment section below.
Do your job. Comment.
Thanks for watching, guys. And remember, stay thoughtful. I'll see you next week.
Have a good one.